Welcome back to Shane Talks. Shane Talks Reboot. We ended up doing technically 69 episodes with our old format. I threw out episode 70 on January 1st, which was just 20 minutes of me talking about the stuff that I liked in 2022. And now this, episode 71, is going to be our first official rebooted episode where we have 4 specific segments that we're going to be going over. We got 4 people on with me tonight. But before I get into any of that stuff, I just want to say that this new episode is a sponsored episode. We have a sponsor. Jason's daughter is in a Girl Scout troop, 3364, and they're selling cookies right now. So in the description, I'm going to have a link to buy cookies from Jason's daughter, Sarah. If you probably have, I mean, if you follow Jason, you've seen him. Since I'm not on social medias anymore, you probably haven't seen me do anything about it, unless I've been tagged in them maybe. But Jason and I have been doing short videos for Sarah for selling her cookies. Jason's been coming up with the concept and filming everything and then sending it over my way, and I've been cutting them together. It's been an absolute blast. We've spent a lot of time on the phone collaborating on the ideas and whatnot. Between week 1 and 2, the concept changed drastically, and we went with it. I'm really excited for what we're going to do with part 3. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and probably just show those videos right now. I might as well. Like, why not? I've got them right here. If you're watching the video version of this, here's part 1. And then part 2 of Sarah's cookie videos.
You selling Girl Scout cookies again this year? Well, you know I want some. When are they going to be available?
When are Girl Scout cookies available for order this
So listen, I've been
Excuse me, hi, do you know when
new
Girl Scout cookies are going to be available?
I can't wait to place my order for 2
When are Girl
boxes.
Scout cookies going to be available? Do you have any Girl Scout cookies?
You know I want Thin Mints.
Where are my Samoas?
Where are the Girl Scout cookies?
Excuse me, hi, do you know when Girl Scout cookies are going to be available?
I can't wait to place my order for 2 boxes.
When are Girl Scout cookies going to be available? Do you have any Girl Scout
You
cookies?
know I want Thin Mints.
Where are my Samoas?
Troop 3364, Troop 3364. We're in need of cookies. We will buy from the first person who can get to us.
We have to get there first. Punch it, Chewie. Troop 3364 always delivers. These are the cookies you're looking for.
Sarah, use the Force.
So there you go. That's what Jason and I have been working on. I hate the fact that they're portrait mode. My eyes work landscape. That's how I've always set up mise-en-scène and anything like that in anything I've ever edited or shot. But it is what it is. Him and Sarah want them to be able to be watched on a phone, which is what the world is trending to these days. But it's been an absolute blast to do those videos for Sarah. But yeah, if you need Girl Scout cookies, that's where you can go buy them from. All right, let's go ahead and get into the episode. The first Shane Talks Rebooted episode, 71, February of 2023, is entitled Parental Guidance. As always, I am joined by Jason L. Mayer. This month, it's a month-long wait now. We're not doing it every week. We're doing once a month. I got Troy Myers on here. We'll explain how it was kind of his genesis for the story we're going with this week. And then coming in at the last minute, saving me. Thank you so much for joining us, Melissa.
My pleasure.
Very happy to have you here. Part of the reboot for going forward with the show. We've got 4 segments we're going to do every month. It's going to be month-long instead of weekly like it used to be. And we're going to try to have 2 guests on with Jason and I every time. So kind of going with a theme of 4s. 4 people, 4 sections, 4 topics. We'll get to those here in just a second. I used to start every show, so I did some poor planning this week. I used to start every show with a new beer that I was adding to the beer blog, shanedrinksbeer.com. I was adding it to almost every episode back in the beginning, but didn't go beer shopping over the weekend. So I literally had 1 beer left in my refrigerator. It's one that I did a couple of weeks ago. It was beer number 1726 for the website. It is a milk stout from Pax Verum. It is a chocolate coconut beer. It's absolutely delicious. So that's what I'm drinking on. Melissa, what are you drinking on tonight?
I have actually got Glühwein, which is a German wine.
Absolutely support that.
Yeah. It's
Roy,
my
you drinking
favorite.
anything tonight?
I'm not. I'm going sober tonight.
Right on, Mayor.
I'm sober as well.
Right on.
So boring on this first
Hey,
episode back.
I mean, my last
It's dry January.
Oh, that's true too. I failed at that. I failed thinking about that too. I had like dry like 9 months of episodes, so I'm trying to get caught up. So anyway, the genesis of this episode, it's back in November, Thanksgiving time, I pitched to Jason my idea for rebooting the show, doing it once a month, having 4 categories, doing stuff like that. We talked one night and then kind of just didn't talk about it anymore for a while. We both got really busy during the holiday season. I had wanted to put out our first episode on January 1st, kind of like the first of the month is my thing for these episodes going forward. So
I was thinking the exact same thing.
As our promo art for this episode shows, I redid the Bone Thugs and Harmony cover for first of the month. So we'll be putting that out tomorrow. But yeah, so we're going to try to release episodes on the first of the month. I put out a very small episode where I talked about the stuff that I loved from 2022 on January 1st. Not a real official episode. It, I guess technically is episode 70, so this will be episode 71. We're also kind of doing away with episode numbers, even though I'll be keeping track of them. We're doing, February of 23. This episode is called Parental Guidance. The topic we're going to end up talking about in the fourth part of the episode is, what age do you start showing your children more adult-themed content? I had gotten Troy and I were in a text conversation, just randomly chatting with each other. I said, Jason and I are getting close to rebooting the show. Like we're still working on the concept and the ideas. And he was like, hey, whenever you're ready, I've got an idea for you. And Troy's text said, I think I have a decent idea. Get Mayor involved. Recently, I've been watching a lot of Adam Sandler movies with Maple. Maybe ask how you introduce your non-G-rated favorite movies to your children. And I said, that is an absolute genius idea. I love that concept because literally 2 weeks earlier, I've been talking to our mutual friend, Dion, and she was telling me a lot of R-rated movies that she had started letting her daughter watch. So we tried to get Dion on this episode. Scheduling just did not work out. Her available days were days that Troy and I had stuff going on. And that is why I'm so thankful Melissa was able to slide us into her schedule so that she could be here. Because the other thing we're trying to do with this reboot of the show is at least have a female voice on every week. Because I feel like for the majority of a lot of our episodes, we really had very few female guests on. Dion had been on before. A couple other random female friends had been on, but really not a lot of female representation on our podcast. So Melissa, so happy you were able to get on here and be a part of this with us. So we have 4 parts that we're going to be doing for the foreseeable future until we reboot again. Part number 1 is called Coming Attractions. Part number 2 is going to be called My First Time. Part number 3 is Genre Mount Rushmore. And then part number 4 is the feature presentation where we'll actually talk about the topic that Troy gave us for tonight. So first up, Coming Attractions. And I'll go first so that you guys can understand what Coming Attractions is. I want to know anything that it's either a trailer or something that you found out is coming out, something that's been announced, something that just has you excited for any property at all, a video game, a movie, a TV series, whatever you're excited about. So last week, the Scream 6 trailer dropped. And this is no surprise to anybody that I am as excited as I was for the movie, overly excited for Scream 6 now. I think the trailer looks great. I'm really hyped for it. Can't wait to watch it. Jason, what is your coming attraction?
My coming attraction, honestly, out of everything that I can think of, is like the fact that they're creating a Nintendo world down at Universal Studios. Like that is
there's already one in California.
Yeah, the one in California is opening, or did they already open, Melissa?
It already has opened.
Yeah, so I think that's
the video and I was like, woo!
It's just like super dope with me. I love going to parks. Oh my gosh, why am I thinking of not the words, right?
Universal Studios?
No. I just mean like amusement parks in general. Like gotcha. I love going those. I love riding roller coasters, even though sometimes whether it's a roller coaster or a motion ride, I can end up getting my vertigo going, but I still have a blast being silly, going and riding tons of rides. When this last May, my wife and I went to Universal Studios, and I think that was like right before, like, I think I was going right after we did one of our last episodes. But yeah, so we went to Universal Studios. I got to ride the Velocicoaster, which is the new Jurassic World roller coaster, which is amazing. Electromagnetic rails. That's a lot of fun. Did Hagrid's motorcycle ride. That one was awesome. So like, yeah, like I love going to amusement parks. A Nintendo theme seems like a really cool idea.
Absolutely.
We did Legoland back in October before we went back to Disney, and Legoland was a little weird. It's definitely skewed towards like younger kids, and I mean like 8 years and younger probably. My older two didn't seem to have as much fun as we did, or yeah, as I would have expected, but it was interesting. But yeah, Nintendo World is definitely what I'm excited about, trying to go see what that's all about. So
very cool. Troy, coming attraction for you?
Well, I recently heard that there was a Sofia Coppola movie coming out this year about Priscilla Presley, which I'm pretty psyched about.
Nice.
She's like my favorite filmmaker, and I love the middle 20th century. And then beyond that, they are showing once a month they do a vintage movie night at Garfield Park. It's a local guy by the name of Dr. Film. That's not his real name. That's just what it is. drfilm.net. Check him out.
That's not his real name.
And what he does is
he should change his name.
His real name, amazingly enough. You know, like he already has the .net. But what he does is he restores old movies that are in like the public domain, and then shows them on old projectors. And about 4 or 5 times a year, they do a silent film. And when they do silent films, they do it with either orchestral or piano accompaniment.
Awesome.
Live in the thing. And it's it's a really good show.
Nice.
So check that out.
What was the website again? drfilm.net?
drfilm.net.
Cool. Right on. I will look into that. And Melissa, what is your coming attraction? What has you excited?
Well, Jason mentioned the theme park, but the movie, that new Super Mario Brothers movie, my brother and I, obviously, we were the first ones on the block to have Nintendo. So we spent a whole lot of time playing that Super Mario Brothers. So I found out there was a movie coming out and told him, we were like, we got to take the boys. Like, we're so excited. His sons, he's got a 2 and a 6-year-old. You know, obviously mine doesn't care, but or about spending time with me, but he didn't grow up with those, you know, particular games. But I said, even if it's just you and me, we got to go. And probably new, because there's new Ant-Man coming out, isn't it, this spring?
Oh yeah.
I want to say March.
3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So no, it's February. Must be the Super Mario that's in March. But yeah, we're big movie buffs in this house, and Marvel definitely tops it. So.
All right, very cool. That is all some fun and exciting stuff coming up. So the next part 2 of the rebooted format we're going with is called My First Time. It originally was titled Virgin Viewing. I ended up thinking that might not go over so well, so we changed that to My First Time. The point of My First Time is for you to talk about something that you have seen recently that you've never seen before. It can be an old movie, it can be something new, but it's just something that you've never seen before and that you enjoyed. I mean, you don't even have to enjoy it. You could say, I watched this movie and it was terrible, but while you guys think about that, I will go with mine. Over the previous weekend, for the first time ever, I watched the movie Hustle, kind of because I knew we were doing some Adam Sandler discussing here later today, so I've heard really good things about Hustle and I wanted to check it out. Oh my God, that movie was so good. Absolutely amazingly good. Like, I'm watching the whole movie, and it even does things where, like, in like the end of the second act, beginning of the third act, they did some stuff where I was like, oh my God, no, you've done such a good job. Why are you going down this like stereotypical storyline? And then 2 to 3 minutes later, they were like, nope, that's not where we're really going. And I was like, yes, thank you. Like, that is why you are such a good movie. Like, you constantly gave me what I wasn't expecting and still told a really great, heartfelt story. I absolutely loved Adam Sandler and Queen Latifah as a couple. I thought that their chemistry was amazing. And then, like, the daughter and the basketball player, I thought that was like a really well-developed friendship between the two of them while she was shooting all the video. And then like you could the one thing they didn't do that I kind of was expecting was I thought that her video was going to end up being more about her dad. Like it kind of always seemed like she wasn't just filming the basketball guy. She seemed like she was also filming her dad at times. So they didn't end up doing that, which is where I thought that was kind of going, like building their relationship. But I mean, it was fine that they didn't. The movie was so fun and enjoyable. I'm glad I watched it, because our next section, I'm going to talk about it some more. Melissa, do you have a first time viewing, something you've just seen recently?
Oh, that I just saw recently. Okay, yeah. I was worried you were going to ask me to ask like an old movie that I like saw recently.
No.
Like,
anything that you've just seen for the first time recently.
Okay, so yeah, so the most recent viewing I think that I saw, honestly, sounds silly, but Violent Night. Did you guys go see that? Oh my god!
Absolutely, so much fun.
Absolutely should have been the goofiest, like all these lines that you're like, oh, you did not just say that, but it fits so well. I mean, Die Hard meets Home Alone meets Santa Claus, you know. I mean, it was
like literally the fact that they reference those movies and they're like, oh yeah, this is so Home Alone, and you're like, oh, this is so Home Alone, and then they spin it like when he hits the nail, like you're just like, oh my gosh, that's so different than what I was expecting you were doing.
No. Oh, but I mean, it's okay. You know, like, I did. I thought it was, I don't know. You always talk about who's your favorite Santa Claus. You know, obviously Tim Allen's always going to be my favorite. Just, I love the Santa Claus movies. But the incarnation in Rise of the Guardians, Alec Baldwin, I don't know if you've ever seen the cartoon, you got to watch it. Because it's not technically even a Christmas movie. It's a whole, like, every holiday movie. But he is this big Santa Claus that has all these tats and just reminds me so much. And I'm like, oh, it's like David Harbour. I was like, well, you're right up there with Alec Baldwin now to me, because he's a little bit rough, a little bit gonna go, willing to go head to head and take on the bad guys. But that's probably one of my most recent movies, and it recently came out, I think on Peacock or something like that. It's like, oh, time to rewatch.
Yep.
That's probably the last one we saw in the theater, but it was so good. It was so good.
Mayor, what were you about to say?
Hey, Shane.
Yeah.
Not that it would surprise you at all, but Rise of the Guardians, own it on 3D Blu-ray.
Oh, yep. Zero surprise there. I mean, there's literally got to be a point where there's literally got to be a point where you will own every 3D movie that's ever been released, right? Like they're not making them anymore.
No.
Like, so
there's certain ones I definitely will. I'm not interested in owning.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Troy, what about you? What's something you've seen recently for the first time?
Have you guys watched the Banshees of Inisherin?
It's on my to watch list. I will watch it before the Oscars.
Oh my god, you have to.
Okay.
I want to spoil it just because I want to talk about it, because it's like an incredible movie.
The reason I haven't been the reason I haven't gone out of my way yet is I'm a huge In Bruges fan, and I've heard that it's nowhere near as good as In Bruges.
It's like 1,000 times better than In Bruges.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's the opposite of what I've heard.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm interested just because of the two guys, along with the writer director. Like that's got
the
me
Martin
wanting.
McDonagh,
yeah.
That guy's incredible.
Let me know.
Colin Farrell is the best actor on the planet, and yeah, you should just watch this movie. Like, it's good stuff.
Will do. All right, Mr. Mayor, what is your first time viewing?
It was just kind of all right. But last night my kids really wanted me. I bought it for them just because they wanted to see it, and I never took them to the theater. But Lyle Crocodile, and they loved it. So they were like, Dad, we got to watch this together as a family night movie. And I was like, all right, since you guys don't have school tomorrow, we can run up a DVD. So we ended up watching that as a family. It's fine. It's cute. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense at all, because whether it never came across in the trailer or anything, but Lyle can't talk, but he can sing.
Oh.
Doesn't make sense to me at all, but whatever. But I mean, like I said, as far as kids movies go, it was cute. It was entertaining for what it was. For the most part, it's kind of forgettable for me, but The guys who wrote the music for like the songs that are in this movie are the guys who did Dear Evan Hansen, Greatest Showman, La La Land. It's the same.
Was the music at least good?
Huh?
Was the music at least good?
It was okay. It's not as catchy as I wanted it to be. So like there's I'm sorry, what was that?
Who's Lyle?
That's Shawn Mendes.
Oh yeah.
So and everybody's just fine in it. Javier Bardem is in it, and he's just okay. Like it's just, I don't know. I was hoping for a little bit more, but what was I expecting out of a kids movie? Like when you get the good kids movie, it works, but when it's just middle of the road, it's fine. So
got you. Speaking of you having your family movie night last night, your wife, I was talking to her, it might have been a week or two ago, and she was telling me about how Luke ended up begging to stay up one night because all the other kids were watching a movie and he didn't want to go to bed, so he wanted to stay up with them. And like her telling me that story just had this like emotional resonance in my mind of like being a kid and staying up late watching movies. And like, I mean, I just had me and my brother, and we didn't bond really like watching movies like that, but like her just talking about how Luke just really wanted to stay up late to watch movies. Like that was a really cool story that she told me. And like, I know it made her late to work the next day, so she wasn't happy about it, but like, I still really enjoyed the story of her talking about how Luke just really wanted to watch a movie with the other kids and stay up late. I just thought that was a really cool story. Did I have something else I was going to say? I don't think so. So we can now move on to part 3. Part 3 is, I kind of just call it Mount Rushmore. It was originally on my script, genre Mount Rushmore, but not really doing genres so much as this week or this month. I got to get into the habit of saying this month's Mount Rushmore is Adam Sandler movies. So I want to know your favorite, your top 4. They don't have to be what you think are his best movies, but what your favorite Adam Sandler movies are. And Melissa, I'm going to start with you.
Blended is one of my all-time favorites. I do.
That's
I love
one
Blended.
that I haven't seen yet.
Oh man,
go watch it. It's so
Terry
good.
Crews gives a
It's
great
so good.
performance.
Oh, I didn't know Terry Crews was in it. Now I'll definitely watch
it. Oh my gosh.
Terry Crews is amazing.
And we are blended. Oh, just don't get me started. I watch that one a lot. Right. So nice. That one I love. I actually love both of the grown-ups movies. I probably love 2 more than 1.
We can count that as just 1.
We count that as 1. Okay. I don't know. My husband makes fun of me, but I love stupid movies. But I'm trying to think of exactly what all. Those are the 3 of his that I watch probably the most. Probably his newer stuff I like better than. And I did try watching the one serious one. Oh, I can't remember the name of it though. It was like the Mr. something.
Mr. Deeds.
Mr. Deeds?
No, not Mr. Deeds. It was a newer one before the Hustle one, and
Uncut Gems.
Nope, before that one, even just before that one. One of his very first like serious ones he had for a while, or like at the beginning.
Like Punch Drunk Love, I think would have been one of his first serious ones. Trying to think.
All right, that's it. I'm pulling up the IMDb.
Jason's
I got it. I got like about halfway through it, and I was like, I can't. I just can't anymore. I don't know. I don't like him serious.
It's the Halloween one.
What?
The Halloween one.
Halloween?
Oh, Hubie. No, it's not Hubie Halloween, but that is also another one of my favorites. I'm gonna say those are my top 4. Honestly, I know we kind of grown-ups is like 1, but between the 2 of them, though, those are probably my favorite 4 because I can't. You could probably list all of them and go, oh, I love that one. I love that one. But
Troy,
Mr. Jankowitz or something. I can't remember. Jankowitz or
now I know what you're talking about. It's a guy's name.
Yeah.
Andy Wexler.
No, it's but he did like it should have been right around the same time as that because he did a couple of movies that were just characters' names.
Yeah, and it was like Mr.
or something.
I've got the Merowitz stories.
That one.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Merowitz stories. It was depressing. I couldn't make it even halfway through because I couldn't figure out where are we going with this? Like where are we? I don't know. You lost me on that one, but yeah, other than that one, his funnier ones and his older funnier ones, especially when he's got his kids going in on it. Those have always been my favorites.
All right, Troy. So this was kind of all because of you. You mentioned that you were showing Adam Sandler's movies to Maple. So what are your 4 favorites, and does she have ones that she really liked?
Yeah, she's she's got her own opinions on all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it basically I ran into the Lyle crocodile dilemma where I was just like, I can't handle these anymore. Like it's not that animated movies are like bad. It's just that animated movies are fucking boring. Like, and I was just like, you know what, we gotta like we really gotta start branching out. Like, so I kind of passed a law where like if I'm watching it, like it's got to have real human beings in it, and we're gonna start from there. And we'll get into why the Adam Sandler happened in a while, but
cool.
I'm gonna start off with the first one that I showed her, and my absolute all-time, like the George Washington of my Mount Rushmore, Happy Gilmore.
All right, I support that.
Happy
100%.
Gilmore, not so much like an Adam Sandler vehicle, but Happy Gilmore has possibly the greatest bad guy of all time.
Shooter McGavin.
Shooter McGavin. If you don't love Shooter McGavin, there's something fucking wrong with you, and you need to take your ass to Sizzler. Happy Gilmore is incredible. The early Sandlers, where basically he was kind of a one-trick pony in that you're just waiting for the man-child to blow up.
Sure.
Well, I really enjoy those blow-ups.
Absolutely.
And I long for the days when.
Did you see the story about the kid that played his caddy in that movie? Like went on to win like a Masters tournament or something like last year or the year before?
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
the like redheaded kid at the beginning or whatever.
Yeah, where he's just like he's got the crazy hair.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I need you to be my caddy, and he's like, okay.
Yeah. Like Adam Sandler like put up the picture of the two of them together in Happy Gilmore, and then like the kid's picture like with the trophy, and it was just like like he said something like, I always knew you'd do better than being my caddy, or like some made some comment like that. It was like, that's pretty cool. Like that's really odd, and especially the fact that Adam Sandler acknowledged it. I thought it was really cool.
That's wild, because the guy who he ended up
Alan
having
Covert.
as the caddy, Alan Covert, is kind of like the director, like partner in crime, which is like one of my favorite things about the Adam Sandler movies, and it's one of
how we got Grandma's Boy.
Yeah, it's one of Maple's favorite things. The character 10 Second Tom shows up in 50 First Dates. He shows up again in Blended.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like
nice.
But I guess second on the Mount Rushmore would be the OG, the original Billy Madison. Possibly the most quotable movie of all time.
I thought I was your snack pack.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, I go on first and make the hair clean. Like,
conditioner is better.
Stop looking at me,
I need
Swan.
the hair silky and smooth.
Like, no, I will not make out with you.
Chlorophyll, more like borophyll.
I say that like 100 times a day. That is my go-to joke when somebody makes a bad joke.
Right on.
Like, yeah. So yeah, but everybody's seen these movies. We don't need to talk about them.
Next up,
I cheated and went with the Wedding Singer 50 First Dates Blended as just one president, kind of like as like the ongoing theme of like Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore being the like Tracy and Hepburn of our time.
Okay.
And just being in the most likable romantic comedies that you can imagine.
I support it all out.
I would honestly say that like Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore are what like people think Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like that comparison.
Like scorching hot take alert. And then
all right, number one.
And then Shane, like maybe I'll you and I can have a discussion about our fourth film on here, because it's as you alluded to earlier, it's on yours, and that's the movie Hustle.
Yes.
I think that a lot of people would assume that I would have said like Punch Drunk Love in that
I honestly,
position.
And that seems like you're
because
kind
I love Paul Thomas Anderson, but like if you're gonna give me like a more serious Adam Sandler, it's got to be like in something like a little bit more exciting and a little bit more like blood pumping. It's got to give you. If you're going to use Adam Sandler in a serious role, you have to like give him the vehicle to unleash like the inner man child and the impatience, and really like the role of an NBA scout who didn't make it, like just like really gave him just such a vehicle to drive. And honestly, like I think it's sad that like maybe possibly because of like when that movie was brought out by Netflix, that like there never was any sort of like drive, because like I thought he gave a damn fine performance. And,
oh yeah,
you know, nominate that man for, you know, a gold. You're not going to nominate him for an Oscar, but like a Golden Globe, give him one.
Yeah,
that's fine. But whatever. Anyway, your thoughts on Hustle?
Oh yeah, we'll get there in a second. Let me give Mayor the opportunity. Mayor, give me your 4.
All right, so number 1, they're kind of blended together. Is it's Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. Like they're like the exact same kind of movie. And I love them both. They came out while we were in high school. It was fantastic, infinitely quotable. What were you gonna say, Troy?
Have you ever? This is one of my favorite games to play with. Like, it was one of my favorite games to play with Maple. Is telling her the plots of Adam Sandler movies, like without having like any sort of context for them. If you say the plot of Billy Madison out loud, it makes you sound like an insane person. It's like there's a rich kid who goes back to school, but he's got to finish like every grade in 2 weeks, and to prove that his father will let him take over like a Fortune 500 company. It's like, okay, kid, like that is as high concept as it gets.
Pretty much.
And yet it works so well.
No, it always does. Well, it's like, okay, like terrible minor league hockey player's grandma is about to lose her house. He happens upon a set of golf clubs. Somehow within like 3 weeks works his way onto the PGA Tour to save grandma's house. meets a man with no hand who got bit off by an alligator. When you say this shit out loud, it makes you sound crazy.
Yep, it definitely does. And it does.
The only storyline that would be worst would be Back to the Future.
Hey, we don't badmouth Back to the Future.
I'm not badmouthing it, but if you think about the actual storyline, you're like, what?
Yeah. So we don't need to address that, because we live in this happy little bubble where Back to the Future is perfect, no matter how you look at it.
Number two is definitely I'm gonna, again, 2 different ones come together for number 2, and that's Wedding Singer and 50 First Dates, because like Troy just pointed out, those 2 together just have a great chemistry. They play well off of each other. They're both super likable every time they're on screen together. There's just some kind of infectious energy. It's great.
They're just nice people.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where you're like, I really hope that's how they are in real life. Like both of them, that genuineness seems to come off the screen really well. I'm gonna say number 3 on that is definitely, for me, is Hustle. I mean, no big deal, or no big surprise with what we've already been talking about. And then my 4th one, and I think it's such a sad and depressing movie, but his performance in Reign Over Me.
You stole it from me. You stole it. I was sitting here going, nobody is going to talk about all the movies, most of the movies on my list, and you stole it. But yet, go ahead.
Yeah, like Reign Over Me is just one of those things where I think, Shane, you might have even said, Jay, you should watch this. And I ended up watching it. It was one of those moments where, like, even talking about it now, I can, like, the sadness and everything kind of infects you while you're talking about it. It
will be no surprise. That's one of those movies that makes me cry every time I watch it. And people that know me know that I get emotional about movies that I connect with. And unfortunately, like, that is one of the ones that story is so sad that, like, I can't watch it without crying.
Yeah, and everybody's really good in it. And then on top of that, you have the whole you just don't expect that from him, right? Punch Drunk Love was the first time you see him in something serious. And for me, Punch Drunk Love didn't work at
I
all
agree.
for me. But I'm not a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan. It doesn't I can't help it, man. Like I've tried so much, but I can't connect with those movies for some reason. Yeah, Reign Over Me is just something that speaks to me. And like almost it's kind of like one of those movies that whenever it's on, if I come across it, I'll just leave it on because for some reason I just want to cry apparently when I come across the movie. I'm like, oh yeah, let's get the uglies out today. So But yeah, those are my 4.
Right on. And yeah, I didn't think anybody was going to take that from me, but I'm going to start at the bottom. My number 4 Adam Sandler movie, one that has not been mentioned yet, because it's not really one of his best, but it's in his original trilogy, in my opinion, because you've got Billy Madison, and then you've got Happy Gilmore, and then I absolutely love Bulletproof because I'm a huge Damon Wayans fan. And again, if you talk about the plot to Bulletproof, it's absolutely asinine and ridiculous and stupid, but it had 2 of my absolute favorite comedians, one at the height of In Living Color, one at the height of SNL, coming together. And as dumb as the movie is, I really enjoy their chemistry and James Caan. And there's a lot of things that I quote in that movie. Disneyland! Like, I really enjoy Bulletproof a lot. My number 3 would be Hustle. That's why I'm so happy I watched it. It was part of my driving reason to watch it before this episode was in case it made it on here, and it did. As we've said, phenomenal performance, great story. And I mean, it's less than 2 hours, which is kind of something that I'm starting to enjoy because with all these movies that are like 3.5 hours long these days, I'm really starting to get sick of that. So 2 hours, perfect time for that movie. What are you throwing up your hands for? I'm sorry.
When was the last time you watched a movie that was that long?
Wakanda Forever, like a month or 2 ago.
That's like 2.5 hours, not 3.5.
It was 3.5. It was like 3.5 hours. It was like 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Did you stay through all the credits?
I was gonna say you might have felt that way, but it's only a 2 hour and like 40-minute runtime, bro.
How long was
maybe
Babylon?
It felt like 3.5 hours. I don't know. Babylon's like 3.5 hours also. That's why I haven't watched it yet.
That movie took a while.
Yeah, I've not heard good things about it. I really wanted to see it, but my friends that went were like, it's terrible, so I've kind of backed off of watching it. Troy, is it any good? Okay.
I mean, there was like, it was just a guy who got a budget who was like, you know what? I'm gonna throw like all of it into this movie, and every dollar is on the screen, as they say. There were things I liked about it. There were things I didn't like about it. There were some really like incredible like scenes.
Right on. Okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely
visually a very stunning looking movie. But I was like, what is it about though? Like, visually, I think it would have been an amazing movie to see at the theater, just because, like you said, of the visual aspect of it.
Yeah, so I'm sure I'll watch it someday. I think it's streaming on something now, but
it's like
I just haven't.
It's kind of like the dark side of Singing in the Rain.
Okay, because it is about movie making, right? Like she goes and tries to be a Hollywood star.
Well, it's about like kind of like the transition from silent film over to like talking film.
Okay. So yeah, I'll watch it eventually. I am interested. I'm just not making it a priority.
Troy, thank you for that. The dark side of Singing in the Rain.
No, seriously. Like, I mean, that's like what it is. Like, I mean, I'm not breaking ground by like saying that. Like, that's literally like, I mean, that's a known quantity of what that movie is.
So my number 3 was Hustle. My number 2 is Reign Over Me, and only because while they're, I mean, Hustle has comedy in it, but it's pretty dramatic. Like the drama from Reign Over Me and the story, and like how Adam Sandler's character is dealing with grief. Like Jason said, it's one that if it's ever on and I see it on, I just watch it because like him and Don Cheadle's performances together are so good. And like, while Adam Sandler puts on a phenomenal performance for what he's going through, like watching Don Cheadle's character and the empathy that he feels, like he wants to take care of his friend, even though it's kind of hurting his marriage. Like just that empathy for him trying to take care of Adam Sandler and like being there for him. Like I absolutely love both of the aspects of their performances in that. And it's phenomenal. So that's my number 2. My number 1, which has not yet been mentioned, came out in the greatest year of all time for film. It came out in 1999, and it is the film Big Daddy. I absolutely love everything about the man-child that he is in Big Daddy. I love the whole cast. I was a huge Jon Stewart fan when that movie came out, so even though he's barely in it, I really enjoy it. It was my first introduction to Leslie Mann. Like, I think I'd seen her in other stuff, but like that was my first, like, this is Judd Apatow's wife. This is how these comedians have been friends like for so long. Like, and then obviously I was a huge high on Joey Lauren Adams at the time. Like, you know, I had just seen Chasing Amy for the first time in 1999. So yeah, those were my 4. Big Daddy was one that nobody else had mentioned either. So yeah. Yes,
I have to amend mine. I have my number 4 because it's one that just exploded in my brain a couple minutes ago and nobody else mentioned it. I'm almost a little embarrassed to say it. That's My Boy. It's so horrible, but it's so much fun. Every time I watch it, I love that movie.
I'm a huge Andy Samberg fan. I wouldn't put it high on my Adam Sandler list, but I definitely did enjoy it. And Jason's brother Dave.
Uncle
no, it's not that I didn't like it. I just wouldn't put it super high on like my list if I was organizing them. But I laughed a lot, and Jason's brother quotes it all the time.
The grown-ups in the same category. There's my 4 to complete my Mount Rushmore. I feel better now.
Perfect. Wow, yeah, I fully support that.
So my niece had to stay up all night to do a sleep study. And one of the things that she did the night before was hang out with Dad, and they just went and did a bunch of stuff. And one of the things was he decided to take her to go see That's My Boy. And she was probably 18 or 19 when that came out, I think.
Okay, well, that's okay.
So at least she's an adult, but that last sequence before the marriage was something that he was not ready for. And it was very uncomfortable when that came up on the screen, sitting right next to his teenage daughter. So
understandable.
Definitely something interesting for him. So
all right, well, thank you. That was a great first Mount Rushmore. I had an absolute blast. We'll do one next month. Before we get to the feature presentation, as far as this Shane Talks Reboot goes, like, I just felt like I had to get my shirt caught in my zipper, break out a shiny shirt for this episode. So I'm gonna shiny shirt it up for the feature presentation that we're about to talk about. All right, so we got the shiny shirt going for the rest of the night. All right.
Oh.
Wait, the feature presentation. Parental guidance. Go and start talking to us about the genesis of where this idea for parental guidance, the episode, came from.
Well, I have an 11-year-old daughter. As I discussed earlier, I am boycotting animated movies that don't look interesting, aka made by Pixar, I guess. And so I found it kind of hard to kind of bridge that gap. At what point do you start showing your kids movies that you like, movies that are good, movies that are still not rated R, still not too heavy. So I started out with movies that I remembered liking as a kid. And so we started out with the Gremlins, Goonies.
Nice.
Turns out to get a PG rating in the 1980s, I don't know what you had to do to get an R rating. Let's put it that way. You literally pornography was probably PG-13 in the 1980s. Gremlins being a PG movie and watching that now and just being oh, that's dark and disturbing. I don't know that this is cool for a 10-year-old. Those are questions that I don't really like asking as a parent. I remember we ran into the Seabiscuit Secretariat dilemma. One of those movies has Diane Lane in it and is a very nice Disney movie about a horse that beats the odds. One of those movies is about Tobey Maguire being a sex fiend in the first 30 to 40 minutes. And I mistakenly thought that, hey, you liked the One Horse movie. let's watch the other sight unseen, and immediately we're like, oh, we got to take this off. That's like real wiener.
If you're still looking for a horse movie, there's one that played at Heartland called Dreamer. I met the director of it. He was a really nice guy. The movie I remember being okay. If you guys still need a horse movie, it was a Heartland film, so it'd probably be okay.
Heartland.
I think he sold off of a horse movie.
This is about beating that system. And so yeah, that kind of led us into kind of the lighter Adam Sandler movies. Started out with Happy Gilmore. I was like, oh, this might be a little harsh. Let's tone it down a little bit. I'm trying to think what we let we watched Big Daddy, obviously. Grown Ups, a few of the more kid friendly ones, I would say. Have you guys ever seen Jack and Jill? It's the one where Adam Sandler plays.
That should also be on my favorites.
His own sister.
No.
I went into that one
He
and
loves
we did
it.
not tell.
I'm also glad that nobody put Click on their top 4 Adam Sandler movies, because that's another one that I don't like. Click. I don't think it works.
I should have put Jack and Jill on mine, but yeah.
No, you shouldn't have. That's blasphemy. That movie is so bad. That movie, and why was it in the 90s every comedian had to do the cross-dressing bit? Every single one of them did. And I understand that Gene Wilder did it also. I know that Richard Pryor did it. I don't understand why comedians thought that Martin Lawrence did it. Eddie Murphy did it. Why was it that all of the
because one person did it successfully, so then everybody thought that was the trend.
I guess. That's one of my biggest times in cinema that I hate, where all the comedians doing cross-dressing movies. I just didn't enjoy it because they weren't good. If they had been good, it wouldn't have, Tootsie's a fine cross-dressing movie. Tootsie's a fine movie. But all of these comedians that were Big Mama's House
is a fine movie.
What's that?
I'm joking. I was saying Tango and Cash is a great movie, and he cross-dresses in that.
Well, yeah. No, I mean that.
Oh, wow.
I think it stuck out because of how many. What was it?
Another discussion for another month. Cross-dressing movies.
Yeah.
I think it was just because they were so bad. Had they been better, I would have been fine with it. But all right, keep going, Troy. Sorry.
Totally lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the movies.
Jack and Jill.
Jack and Jill, yeah. If you're going to show your kid that, don't tell them beforehand. There's a really great reveal when you find out that Adam Sandler is playing his own sister, and it's worth seeing your kid's face. Let's see. But eventually you even kind of run out of those. I don't really think that she's quite ready for Billy Madison. There's a few kind of there's a few on the line things,
sure.
The whole Norm Macdonald character is skeevy.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know that I want to put that to her just yet.
Bedtime Stories, though, that was a good Adam Sandler movie to watch with my family. I really enjoy it. It's not the best. It's kind of, but it's entertaining enough with the fun factor of it. So
she really liked The Wedding Singer, 51st Dates, Blended.
Good.
Those are probably her favorites at this point.
Nice.
But lately, it's kind of brought me, weirdly enough, back to being thankful for the Hays Code. In that every movie made in Hollywood from 1938 till about 1960 is completely safe to show your child.
Oh, okay, sure.
It's, you know what I mean? It's the Hays Code. I mean, no nefarious conduct, no you don't have to worry about nudity, you don't have to worry about overt sexuality, you don't have to worry about anything that you don't want to have to talk about, which is really what this is. How can I show my kid a movie and get out of having a discussion? The last thing I want to do is have an after school special on my Friday family movie night, but at the same time I also don't want to watch fucking
Frozen.
Yeah, I never want to see that again. I've fallen asleep in so many animated movies in the theater, and I just never want to do that again. I would never want to do that to me. And so that's my stance. Like,
All right.
the happier that I am, the better parent I can be.
All right. So I'm going to move over my
Jay, do
question
you
to
have
Melissa.
thoughts on this?
Hold on. I'm going to move over my question to Melissa real quick. Melissa, yeah, I believe you have the oldest child out of the three of them. Your son is
18.
18. Okay. So do you remember the first R-rated movie that you watched with him, or that you let him watch?
Oh gosh.
And around what age would that have been?
That's a really good question.
I only ask good questions.
It was probably late teens.
Okay.
I don't know that I necessarily went to watch it with him. I was always really aware of the ratings on movies for certain things. And it's funny because, so first of all, I just want to tell you, Troy, that I have so much respect for you as a father who's actually making an effort to monitor what your daughter is seeing, you know, because one of my absolute biggest pet peeves is parents who are like, oh, it's okay, it's what everybody else is watching. No, it's absolutely our part to, on a certain level, protect our children's innocence, you know. And unfortunately, Hollywood and movies try entirely too much to slip certain things in. And on one hand, I can say, okay, you slip some adult humor into this, you know, animated movie, and they didn't get it. I was like, oh, thanks, you know. But on the other end, at some point you go, ooh, like, don't put that in my kid's movie, you know. But as far as an actual R-rated movie, it would have been just a couple of years ago. And my husband, God love him, we've been married 8 years, but Matthew's obviously not his. He's known him since he was 5. We were never blessed enough to have children. So it's kind of been this constant battle between me and him of, well, I mean, you need to, you know, he'll learn it either way. I'm like, I don't care what he's going to learn when he's at his friends. I want to make sure that he understands what I'm okay with. And I think at some point it is, a lot of it has to do with your beliefs, whether you are religious or not, whether you care about certain aspects of things or not, whether you care about language. Maybe you don't care about language. You guys use language. You don't care if your kids use language. That's not an issue for you then. It's an issue for me. So for me, that matters. Now, I'm not one of those parents that, I probably should have been a little better, but I wasn't one of those parents that's like, oh no, I'm going to go watch this Disney movie first. I'm not going to let you go see Belle and the Beast because those two guys at the end, they had a moment. I don't want to put that in. That's 1,000% not me. Yes, we're Christians, but that's just 1,000% not me, you know? But I wish more parents were aware of what their children were watching. And the biggest issue nowadays is every kid has a phone. Well, if your kid has a phone and you're not putting any kind of protection on that at 10, they can pull up Netflix and pull up softcore porn. I mean, let's be honest, you know what I mean? So I think awareness and being involved is part of it. But as far as actual R-rated movies, for me, a lot of it was, look, you're going to go to your dad's and he doesn't care as much as I do. Okay. You're going to go hang with your friends and they're going to think it's fun. My aspect was always, look, we don't want that. I don't want you watching that. You're going to make your own choices. Once he hit, I don't know, 13, 14, you know, at that point, when your kids are that age, you got to start teaching them how to monitor themselves, because you're not always going to be there. They're going to be out with their friends. They're going to be with, you know, unfortunately, if you're split like we were, they're going to be with the other parent. They're going to be, you know, and there's so many different ways that they can get a hold of something that you have no control over. You know, it has to just be you talking to them saying, look, you and I agree, this is what we believe. This is what, you know, I don't want you doing that for whatever reason. I don't want you having that kind of language in your brain, because then you'll start using that kind of language. I don't want you having these images in your brain, because then you're going to start looking for more images like that, you know? So as far as actual R rating, I want to say he was probably 15 or 16.
Okay.
Honestly.
Right on. Do you remember what it was by chance?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay, right on.
It was honestly, and it was definitely not me watching it with him. It was me giving him permission. And when he went with his friends, it was probably some horror movie. I don't do horror. I don't do horror. I don't do scary movies at all. And we'll talk about that if you have time later, but it has to do with gremlins, but we'll go beyond that. Anyway, but that's probably what that was. And that was more of a blood and guts kind of thing. And let's face it, they're surrounded by that. So they're so desensitized to that particular aspect of things.
Well, and like you talking about stuff the way you were just talking about it, it really flooded me with a lot of memories from growing up, because like the first R-rated movie I saw, I was 12. I was over at a friend's house and we watched the trauma film, The Toxic Avenger. And there's language and nudity and sex and all kinds of stuff in that. And from 12 on, I was like, well, that's what's in all those movies my parents don't want me to watch. Okay.
Right.
And then like even in high school, like, so I've told stories on other podcasts about how we would go to Marsh on Friday nights and my mom would let me rent a video while she was doing grocery shopping and whatnot. Somehow, I don't remember when I attempted to push my luck, but I went up with an R-rated movie to the guy at the counter and he just let me rent it. My mom had no idea what movie I was going home with. Like, she did the grocery shopping and then she met me in the video area and like I had gotten my video and we were leaving. Like, I had her card and everything, and I pushed my luck at one point and was able to rent an R-rated movie. So I just kind of started trying it every Friday night, and not once did I ever get stopped. And so a lot of times on Friday nights, I'd be in my parents' basement watching a movie that they had no idea what it was, because it was just something that I pulled from the video shelf at Marsh. So you
surely
talking about,
they wouldn't let you rent something that was R-rated because you were just a little kid. It was obvious.
So yeah, so it was, I definitely, it's one of those, like, it's one of those parenting things where like I know how bad of a child I was, and I was doing stuff behind my parents' back. So like I you know, always when I had my stepdaughter, I was always worried that she was doing stuff like that. Obviously, I was probably wrong, but that's just like, it was in my head that I knew how terrible of a child I was. So every kid is like me. Jason, what do you got to say on this topic?
Well, there is a reason I am with this picture behind me. All three of the top movies here, 1, 2, and 3 behind me. I know I saw 2 and 3, Predator and RoboCop, in the same summer of 1987.
And how old would you have been?
In the movie theater, I was 6.5 years old.
Yeah.
The Lost Boys, I know I saw it not too long after it came out. It might have been on video at home. I don't remember seeing it in the theater off the top of my head, but like I was 6.5 years old. My parents drove me and my brothers are 8 and 9 years older than me. We all went to the movies. We're all watching it, and Predator had skinned guys at the beginning of the movie. RoboCop has people getting shot in the balls and ripped apart by guns. And it's one of those things where like that would mean that my daughter would have already seen this for her age. Like, she's 8. And it's one of those moments where I'm like, oh no, like there are so many no's to this.
There are so many movies that my mom took me to in the theater that I'm just like, oh, I would never.
Well, here's the weird thing, right? Like, because Melissa, you touched on this. While Shane and I were working at the movie theater, Deadpool came out. And you had so many parents who literally were like, it's just another superhero movie.
It's a Marvel movie.
We're warning them when they were buying the tickets at the box office. We're warning them when they were getting their tickets torn. This is not what you think it is. And then like within the first couple of seconds, he's cutting people's heads off and they're flying around. And like, you know, my brother well, yeah, but my brother was at the theater on opening weekend, and he at Glendale while one of us was working, and all of a sudden, like, he cut somebody's head off, and this little kid he said must have been like 4 or 5 years old, screamed his head off when he watched that head get sliced, and he ran out of the theater, and his parent had to go run after him. And I'm just like, and it's one of those things where as a parent, I'm trying to be aware. And like Troy mentioned earlier, I've watched Goonies, I've watched Back to the Future, I've watched what are some of the other older ones that, and like you're sitting there and they're saying shit, they're saying damn, and like,
oh yeah,
you're not ready for it as a parent, right? You're like, oh, this is a great movie, it's a kids movie, like it's PG, it's totally okay, and you hit play and then you're watching it, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, well, another one where like you're watching it and all of a sudden they're like shit and you're like it's like, oh crap, I wish I could take your loss.
Not only do they say shit in Bill and Ted, it's when he's screaming it in Spanish, so it's all subtitled shit.
Right.
Merda, shit.
Yeah. But so like I think it's a maturity level thing. It's feeling things out. My kids, we didn't really like navigate. I started getting them into like Star Wars and Marvel movies probably when they were like 8 to 10 years old ish, somewhere in that realm. And actually it was probably a little bit earlier than that. When did Endgame come out?
2012, 2014.
No, Endgame hasn't been that long, has it?
No.
It was like 17 or 18.
Wasn't it?
I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, I think 2012 was the first Avengers movie, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think it was 17 or 18, right? 18, yeah. So my kids are like 7 and 8 years old. And like my wife was like, oh, they're just watching a Marvel movie and they put on Infinity War. And I'm at work and all of a sudden I get a phone call and my wife is FaceTiming me and she's like, you need to talk to your kids. And I was like, what's going on? And she was like, they just got done watching Infinity War. And like she turns the phone and points it at my kids, and both of my boys are bawling their eyes out when everybody gets dusted at the end. I mean, like, and I was like, guys, I had specifically told them to wait, and I would watch that with them, and and it was going to be one of those things where like we watched it together, and then like the next day we'd go and watch Endgame, so like that they could just have that closure really quickly compared to a full year like the rest of us. But yeah, so this was like 2 months before Endgame was coming out or something, but yeah, so they totally ruined it for themselves. But yeah, so like my kids have been watching Disney or Marvel and watching Star Wars. So like I feel like just recently I showed the two older ones Men in Black, which is like totally right up their alley. It worked. Yeah. They liked it a lot. They had fun with that one. Billy Madison, I'm right there with you, Troy. There's so many different ones where I'm like, oh, like The Matrix is a rated R movie, and I'm like, there's not a whole lot in The Matrix that's really that bad.
That's literally on my list to talk about here soon. Is I've got a couple of movies written down, and The Matrix is one of them, and I put not really any bad language. So
it does have it's got bad language, but as far as like the content of like the worst part is when like when Mouse gets blown, like shot up, and he gets all bloodied. That's probably the worst, like gore wise, but like I try and I'm right with Melissa where I don't want to show them too much to get them desensitized to things, because growing up, man, I didn't have like horrible night terrors, but I remember having quite a few vivid nightmares where I was waking up and I was screaming at the top of my lungs a couple of times. And it wasn't, like I said, it didn't happen very often, but it's definitely memorable for me, where like I don't have that with my kids, man. They're not watching horror movies. They're like, I was watching Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers killing and when I was like 5. Like, what were my parents thinking? And I think that I don't know about Melissa, you grew up in more of a church home than I did, because like my parents, they had religion forced on them when they were young. So they did the whole like, I like my spirituality, but I don't like organized religion at all. So like they went in that opposite direction of like everything is just a free-for-all essentially. Like, so I was watching things that I should not have been watching, and while I enjoy it for what it was and I can laugh about it now, it definitely made an impression. I mean, like Die Hard, I saw Die Hard right when it came out, you know, like a whole lot of, and then don't get me wrong, great movie, fantastic movie, best action movie of all time, but still one of those things where I'm like, I'm not going to show like I definitely need to get to like 15, 16 before I start letting my kids watch. And Die Hard's a little bit more tame than RoboCop or Predator.
Oh, yeah.
But like they're definitely movies where I'm like, I can't wait until I watch these with these boys because this is gonna be awesome. Like Aliens, the first Alien, like there's so many movies where I'm like, I want to show them classic, awesome films. And there's
Do you
a lot.
have an age in mind where you're planning on doing that?
Once again, it comes to maturity level, man. Like,
Okay.
so I have to.
Every child's different.
I think Chris is a year behind Nick, but his maturity level is a little bit above Nick's.
Okay.
So like I have to gauge that, and that's kind of an interesting thing as a parent, is trying to figure out exactly how each one of my kids can handle these things. Like I haven't shown them the Mummy because of some of the stuff that happens in the Mummy, but I want to show them the Mummy. And we tried to watch Pirates of the Caribbean, and the one who got most excited about that movie was Sarah. And I was like, because I was like, oh, it's not that bad. But then I'm like,
Johnny Depp is pretty great. I mean,
there's some, they are walking skeletons, and it just kind of freaks you out. And I'll never forget it.
I see, like, the Mummy is more tame than Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, yeah, there's mummies in the Mummy. Like skeletons. I love the Mummy. I've watched it a lot.
I've watched it recently, but like you watch, like he's ripping things off of people and like attaching it to himself, and like,
but it's in a comedic way.
Scarab, yeah, but the scarabs
that's totally different. Sucking someone dry and regenerating your own flesh is totally different. He's not ripping things off people. I mean, get it right here, Jason. He doesn't rip things off people.
No, he ripped the tongue out. Remember, he ripped the tongue out of the one guy.
You don't see that.
Yeah, it's on screen.
There's still some stuff, but like, I think it's all the maturity level of your kid for sure. So
that's exactly what it is.
I've been holding on to the conversation way too long. Anybody else, feel free to chime in.
I'm just curious with Troy, do you have any plan with Maple? Like, what's your next progress of like introducing her to a little bit? Like, are you moving up to, I mean, you've already done PG-13 movies, obviously, but like, is it language or is it sexual content that you're trying to keep her back from?
Oh, I don't really care about language.
Okay.
She's not like she's like a wildly fantastic like rule follower. Like I don't have like, she won't curse, like even if I give her the floor to do as such, like she won't take the bait, as it were.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't worry about language. I don't really worry about like, it's so weird, like like not all R-rated movies are like created the same, I suppose. Like RoboCop, I don't want her to see that like ever, honestly. Like there's some really like disturbing shit in that movie, as opposed to like, but like the movie like but like something like Bloodsport with like Jean-Claude Van Damme, I'm like, she can watch that tomorrow. That's like ridiculous. Like I'm sorry, like no human being is gonna be like, oh Dad, tell me about like the moral atrocity of this kumite. Like, like nobody's coming with that. And so it's just like, but both those movies like technically rated R. I feel like one of those movies I'm gonna have to answer a lot more questions about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not gonna be Bloodsport.
Well, and that's like The Lost Boys, right? Like that's another one where I think about it and I'm like, there's a little bit of blood in there. There's no nudity.
See, you say that, but like honestly, like I remember watching The Lost Boys like maybe when I was like 9 or 10 on video, and there is the scene where he like plays the mind trick on the dude with the rice,
with the Chinese food. Yep.
Oh, yeah,
with the rice that looks like maggots, and like I've never been able to like unsee that. So like you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like even like a seemingly like harmless movie could have like something like that in there that just like scars your brain for life. And it's like we're trying to avoid situations like that. Plus, I don't really like guns. we're trying to avoid everything that has to do with like wildly shooting up the place, which is sad because like I feel like my child could emotionally handle John Wick because there's nothing to explain there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
She'd probably
that's
agree
another one,
with it.
like The Matrix, where you're like, there's not a whole lot besides the cartoon violence of shooting people. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into the philosophical part of the Matrix and have my kids start asking questions about like reality and simulation theory and shit like that. That I'm like, I don't have like the quantum physics degree to like tell her about.
So is the slasher genre one you're trying to keep her away from, or do you care about like Scream
I think
and
that's
Halloween?
I think that's one that she's gonna keep away from herself.
Okay.
I don't really have to worry about it. I don't
Got
really
it.
like. I'm not a huge like slasher horror movie guy,
Mhm.
to be honest, and so yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Jason, are you going to let your kids make their own decision, or are there any of those like horror movies that you want to show them? Because like when Caitlin and I were married, like the one movie I really wanted to show Lily was Scream. She literally never had any interest in it, so I never got to show it to her. So
Yeah,
like, is there anything like that you want to show them that you might think they never are going to be interested in?
well, and if you think about it, right, like once they're old enough and mature enough, like Halloween, I feel like Halloween's like such a good movie, like from an artistic standpoint, that like in some of the stuff that John Carpenter did and just the creepiness factor of it. I think if you were ever going to do an R-rated horror movie as like a tester of the water, essentially, I would think that should be where you would start, in my opinion.
Sure.
Just because
Followed immediately by Halloween Resurrection, right?
No, oh God, stop. But no, like, because I think that's something that would like, there's not a whole lot to that movie, as far as it's just a whole lot of creepiness, and then you have like what, like 6-7 deaths or something like that, and like most of them,
just 6 or 7.
but I mean they're quick. It's not a whole. It's not like super bloody. It's not like you're watching the Freddy movies where people are getting slashed and the cartoon blood flying everywhere kind of stuff.
He's hilarious.
You know what's weird is like he was my favorite growing up because of the fact he made those jokes, and like now that I think about it, I'm like, that's really fucked up. Like
Freddy was corny. Like,
oh yeah. I just saw a thread on, I think it might have been Facebook, but it was talking about how Freddy might not have even been the ghost of the guy that they killed, that the parents killed, that it might have been when Heather Langenkamp's character found out about it, that she created it and then pulled everybody into her dreams, because that was her like dream power or whatever. And so she like created Freddy herself, and then everybody was getting pulled into her dream reality. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool and different way to look at that. I mean, I don't agree with it necessarily, because Freddy goes on so many different aspects.
Yeah, it has me thinking,
but yeah, thought it was kind of a cool take on it. But there's fan theories about everything, including Grease. So like,
gotcha.
So weird.
So Melissa, do you have any adultish themed PG-13 R films that you are wanting to show your son? Like, are there any that you really love and that means something to you that you want to share with him? Coming of age movies or anything like that that you want, that he hasn't seen or you want to show with him?
I don't think any that I haven't shared with him at this point.
Okay. What were some of them then?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Like the movies that you loved that meant a lot to you, that when you were like at whatever age you were like, this is a movie that I love and I want to share it with you. You're going to sit down and watch this with me, whether you want to or not.
Okay, so it's going to sound really stupid, but Heavyweights. Have you guys?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that's going back.
It's the most random movie back in the 80s, but it's something that we used to watch on the regular. So Jason is correct that things were very, very strict in my household. My mother.
Ben Stiller was the bad guy in Heavyweights?
Yes, he
I was. Making
was.
sure I had
And
the right
both
movie.
parents, both his parents were in that movie too, and I love that
A couple
movie.
of the guys from the Mighty Ducks were in it.
Yes, most of the Mighty Ducks, and that was again my genre. I love Mighty Ducks and everything else.
Nice.
So that particular movie was a fun one that my brother and I used to watch like a lot.
Nice.
And when Matthew got to be like 6 or 7, I want to say, is when I started showing him that one. And
Nice.
he and I loved that one together.
Good.
We watched that one a lot too. That was probably one of the only ones that I was like, from my youth, I loved this movie. Let's watch this movie together. And we really loved it together. And we watched it several times.
Awesome.
For that one. But yes, things were very, like, I was not allowed to watch Simpsons.
Oh, wow.
To this day, I really don't enjoy Simpsons, but also I think part of it is because I was never allowed to watch anything. I was never allowed to watch any of them. And then I watch as an adult and I go, okay, I mean, I see why. It's a cartoon, but it's not a kid show, you know? Yep. And so it's just, it's funny in that aspect, but just because, yeah, that was probably the movie that I, for whatever reason,
That's
completely
awesome.
loved. And, you know, finally when it came around, that he's actually loved as well.
Good.
We kind of watched together. It's probably one of the only ones, to be honest with you. Other ones we've discovered together along the way.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, that's probably the one.
Right on.
That was big for us.
Troy, what's coming up next? What's down the road a couple of years for Maple that you are excited to share with her? Like maybe she's not ready for it yet, but you're excited for when you feel like she's ready.
I really want to watch like Zoolander with her.
Nice.
I really want to watch like you know, just like my favorite movies. Like I really want to watch
anything by Michael Apted or who are some of those other artsy directors that you really used to be into?
No, I mean, I'll watch a French movie with anybody. Like I'll do that today.
Jean-Luc Godard.
Yeah. R.I.P. the master.
What about, okay, so you were the one that introduced me to Lars and the Real Girl. At what age are you going to show that to your daughter? I know
Lars
you love that
and the
movie.
Real Girl?
Yeah.
Are you talking about All the Real Girls?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah. All the Real Girls. Yeah, All the Real Girls. That's the one.
Totally different movies.
Totally different. I knew it had something to do with girls in it. Yes, All the Real Girls. You were the one that introduced me to that movie. At what age will you show that to your daughter?
You know what? Like that movie, I could probably show that to my daughter like later this year, and she would be like, she would find like something in there. That one's not too shabby as far as like
good.
It's not as like it's kind of a more humanistic story. There's not a lot to worry, like other than language, it's not really that bad.
It was Pablo Schreiber, right?
It was Paul Schneider.
Paul Schneider, thank you. There you go. Paul Schneider. Yeah, okay.
There's like a lot of movies that kind of like just right on the cusp that I'm kind of like, all right, like you're
getting there.
You'll be emotionally mature enough to handle this, like, soon.
Nice.
We just ran through like Singing in the Rain, Top Hat. I showed her Bringing Up Baby. So like I've kind of like worked my way into like screwball comedy.
Okay.
With the idea that it someday like we'll come out and be able to watch like The Hangover or something like that.
Okay. Nice.
Something that like far-fetched, ridiculous, a little edgier than Adam Sandler, but like still not like,
Well, and as far as those comedies go and what you were saying earlier about like movies in the 50s and 60s, like a lot of those were based on like stage plays. So you've got a lot of like really good like Neil Simon stuff that was turned into a movie that is, acceptable for all ages. That's, got some fun comedy and stuff in it.
It's just like, well, it's like there's just like such an era, like, that era that like we grew up on in like the 1980s. Like something like Weird Science, which in Adam Sandler's hands would be like this perfectly like harmless like PG comedy. Like you turn on Weird Science and it's like there's like nudity, there's like like drug use, drunk driving, like, and I'm just like, dude, like this is not the area that I want to drive into.
What will Maple's first John Hughes film be?
Probably Pretty in Pink.
Okay. Would you say, Jason?
It said Home Alone.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. It already has been, I guess. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's
80s John Hughes coming of age movies, not family friendly, straight up. Like Pretty in Pink is probably the answer I was looking for from you.
No, well, I mean, like a Ferris Bueller, probably can watch that one.
Sure.
Yeah, Some Kind of Wonderful is pretty good as far as I remember. But all these movies I'm gonna want to go back and watch before I show to her, because I'm like,
what have I forgot?
Yeah. Is there the scene where, like, some kid goes like charging into the girls' locker room or whatever, like things that like people thought were hilarious in the 1980s.
I mean, you're talking about oh no, you didn't. Never mind. You didn't say 16 Candles. Never mind. I was gonna say there's some questionable stuff in 16 Candles.
Well, I mean,
it's like at what point can I like something like Varsity Blues?
Yes.
That's a movie that like I feel like you could watch when you're like feasibly like 14 or 15, but there's some things, whipped cream bikini. Like I don't want to have to explain this stuff. I don't want to have to think about it with my child in the room.
The one that popped into my head recently was, and I think I might have mentioned it on this podcast before, but within the last few years, I watched Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh my God, Revenge of the Nerds is like, that's rape.
There's rape.
It's literally rape at the end of that movie.
Literally rape.
One of those moments where you're just like, I'm watching it and I'm like, I feel gross watching this right now. Like,
oh yeah, no, there's and that's like just like touching the surface of everything that's wrong with that movie.
Well, and then you take what was it? You look at The Breakfast Club and like the stuff that Judd Nelson's character does.
The Bender does,
and you're just like, oh, like, don't get me wrong, I love that movie overall. It's a fantastic film for me. But I'm like, I don't know if I want.
As an adult,
sitting here talking about just thinking about like Pretty in Pink, I'm like, oh, do I trust that like James Spader isn't like doing cocaine off some naked girl at some point in that movie? No, I don't right now. I don't trust that, because that seems like a perfectly feasible thing that I just kind of erased from my mind. That does not mean that it does not exist
in the 80s. So yeah, like that's definitely one of those things where, Weird Science, isn't that the one where like at the end, like you see the woman's boobs while she's like flying through the air or something like that? And
yeah. I mean,
it mind you, the whole concept's just kind of bizarre anyway. But
the whole concept is something I don't want to explain as well. Fucking it's sitting there as like a PG-13 movie while like Bloodsport is rated R because they have a martial arts tournament.
Yep.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's very weird scenario.
All right, Jason. So I haven't asked you yet, Jason. Is there anything that's coming up that you're really excited to show your kids that you're just waiting a little bit longer for them to be ready for it?
It's so strange because like I took my kids to see Avatar. And I took them to see Avatar Way of Water, both in the theaters in 3D, because I think that's just an experience that everybody should have. And it's, again, not great movies. That definitely, like, I could name so many more that are better written and directed, especially even just by James Cameron himself. But like, just from a visual standpoint, and it's just something that I think is absolutely awesome. So like, I think my kids are mature enough to handle most PG-13 things, but there are a few that you're just like, no, we're not there just yet. But Nick's my movie goer, man. Like Nick and Sarah love to go see movies no matter what. Chris is kind of that guy who I'm like, hey, you want to go to a movie? And he's like, I can't hit pause and go to the bathroom when I want to. Like,
that's my same excuse these days.
I'd rather just stay home. I'll wait until I can see it at home. And I'm like, dude, it's a movie theater experience that you're missing though. Like, for the most part, like, I kind of think like they're both old enough and ready enough that I could show them like Independence Day. I think that's kind of cool right now. Like, I could probably get away with The Mummy. I don't want to do anything like too horror themed, because that's kind of like a horror comedy genre. I'd probably stay away from that, like at the end of the night, maybe do it maybe earlier in the daytime, because I found that was something that worked well when Chris was really into dinosaurs when he was like 5-6 years old, as most boys are at that age, right? He found out about Jurassic Park. We watched Jurassic Park. He was totally okay with it. And then he was like, but I want to watch the other ones. And I was like, okay, here's the deal, dude. Like, I'll turn them on for you at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and you can watch them with the lights on, like the sun shining and everything else. And he might not get the experience that I would want him to from a movie going experience, but like from the fact of being a parent and trying to not have those transition to something where I just watched a big old dinosaur eat a guy off a toilet. Now I'm gonna go lay my head down. What kind of dreams am I gonna have? So yeah, like there's certain things that, you know, I think kind of you can skate around a little bit. I know that like my brother allowed his my brother's 11-year-old and like 7-year-old at the time, I think they were 11 and 7, got to watch the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League.
Okay.
And I mean, that's technically rated R, but like
okay.
It's mainly just because of the language.
Okay.
And so like my sister-in-law cusses around her kids. Like the kids don't use that language, but they definitely have heard it. So it's one of those things where it wouldn't be, you know, they usually hear it, so they can watch the movie and it's not that big of a deal.
Sure.
Love you.
Love you too, bud. Good night.
Good night.
But
so
yeah, it's just kind of interesting to try and figure out and walk that fine line of things. And but I really want to show them the Mummy, man, like, because that's just such a fun film. That's definitely one of
really
those
good. So I can't go an entire podcast without bringing up a certain director. So I'm going to ask, what Kevin Smith movie would you show your children first? Troy, don't look at me like that. I know you've seen a Kevin Smith movie.
I love Kevin Smith movies. Like, I think like I'll be the first one to admit.
Okay.
No. There's like the like 3-titted like
true
like psychic in that movie.
Yep.
Oh, good point.
I don't want to have to explain like the whole like who's your favorite new kid? Fucking yeah, no, that one's damn near toward the end of
good
the
point,
good
point. You're right. I wasn't ready for this question.
Gotcha.
Kevin Smith might be, you know what, that might be something that she needs to discover for herself. And then if she discovers that and she's like, hey, have you ever seen a movie called like Clerks? And I'll be like, yeah. I'll be like, it's like one time I watched that movie like 37 times, like in a row. And then I'll just like be like, I'm out. Like,
and then, you know, then she goes, and I watched Zach and Miri as well. like
I'm just like, yeah, I don't, yeah, nah,
I'm
dude,
tapped out. I'm done.
It's cool, man. Like,
so the answer is Jersey Girl is the best Kevin Smith movie to show your kids.
Yes, you're probably right.
But then it's also, but I want her to like Kevin Smith movies.
Man, go back and rewatch Jersey Girl. It got the hate that it got because of Bennifer, but like they're back together now, so the movie's okay because it really, I mean, it's in my top of Kevin Smith movies.
All's well that ends well. Like, yeah.
And George Carlin is phenomenal.
I'll do my reassessment on Geely too. I'll get right on that.
Not a Kevin Smith movie, so I don't care about that one. Melissa, do you have a favorite Kevin Smith movie that you would share with your child?
I'll be honest with you, like I know who Kevin Smith is. I'm not big on directors. I'm like, who directed this or that. And a lot of his movies, I'll be honest with you, have not struck a chord with me enough that I would be like, oh yeah, that's a Kevin Smith movie. You know, he's just not one of those. The ones that the pieces that I've seen of his movies, I'm like, it doesn't really strike me for that one.
We say Good Will Hunting.
Kevin Smith episode.
Yeah, no, don't invite me because I go, I have no input. I have no input whatsoever. Good Will Hunting was good. Is that his?
Not
See, I told you, I don't
exactly.
know.
The rumor is he did a script rewrite input on the script for Matt and Ben,
No.
but they're the ones credited with writing it.
Okay, well then that doesn't count.
But they were apparently working on it like
They were
during
good
the
friends,
Mall
though,
Rats
right?
Chasing
Like the
Amy
three of
time.
them.
Yeah, they're all really good friends. And like Ben Affleck was living with Kevin Smith while they were filming Chasing Amy, and that was when him and Matt were writing Good Will Hunting. So like there was apparently a lot of bouncing stuff off of Kevin Smith while they were writing it at that point.
Oh, gotcha.
So
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's never been official. It's always been rumored, and Kevin's really not, that I remember, said anything official about it. Jason, what are you looking up right now?
I'm looking up all of Kevin Smith's stuff, and I definitely.
Maybe you can find something that I liked.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I mean, I was trying to find something that, like Troy said, like something that's appropriate, and I think Jersey Girl is probably the best that you could get away with showing the first version of that. But yeah, come on, man, everybody knows.
Like find Dogma anymore?
Like,
what
you
about
can't.
Dogma?
Like, is it true that like it's basically kind of like been almost like pulled from like circulation?
So what the deal is, unfortunately, Dogma was technically released by Dimension Films, which was the subsidiary of Miramax. But after Dimension Films released it, Harvey Weinstein officially bought it himself from the company. So as of right now, Harvey Weinstein himself owns Dogma. Kevin Smith, just like a month or two ago, I saw him do an interview where he, like, somebody at a panel asked him, hey, like, why can't I get Dogma digitally or anything? And Kevin Smith admitted that they made him a $1 million cash offer to buy Dogma from Harvey, like, what, because Harvey's going through all of his shit and whatnot. Apparently Harvey's number is $5 million that he wants for the movie, and Kevin Smith is like, I don't have $5 million. So there was he tells the story that there's another studio that was like, fuck it, let's just release it. Let's make DVDs of it or put it out digitally. Let's just release it. And if he sues us, we'll take care of it. Like, we'll have our lawyers handle it. And I guess Kevin Smith hasn't been willing to pull that trigger yet to do that. But he apparently has a studio that's willing to just say, fuck Harvey Weinstein, we'll just release it and we'll deal with his lawyers afterwards. But Kevin did say he offered him $1 million cash to just sign the rights over to him so he could have the movie. And he was turned down and told that they wanted $5 million for it. So, I mean, at least there's discussions going on right now. But yes, unfortunately, Harvey Weinstein officially owns the movie himself. It wasn't through Miramax or Dimension anymore. So when Miramax's library got sold, Dogma wasn't included in that.
Ooh, you know what? I just thought of looking up stuff. I just came across Donnie Darko. Now that's a movie that I would love to show Christopher.
Really?
Yeah. Because
really?
He's my scientist. He's my engineer.
Okay.
I think he would have a whole lot of fun with that movie.
I thought you were just kind of like, okay. I didn't know that you really liked that movie.
I think it's pretty
nice.
Darn fantastic, because it's just, I think they hit some notes that I wasn't expecting much out of that movie, and for it to take me on the journey that it did, it resonated really well for me. So
right on. Does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about on this topic? Anything else?
Okay, I do.
Okay,
Nobody else.
Bring it on. Let's go.
So, okay, we were talking only because it's something that's been in my brain, and we're talking about what's, showing kids certain things. Okay, we were talking about, we mentioned Gremlins earlier. Okay.
Oh yeah, coming back to that.
I was 3. My father took me to the theater to see this cute little Gremlins movie with this cute little gizmo. No, I had my face in the popcorn bucket for most of it. To this day, I still cannot watch a scary movie.
Really?
And what I remember was afterward, I could not walk into a dark room or open a door where I knew the light wasn't on in the other room, because of it's the pop out feature of so many of these nasty, scary gremlins. To this day, my husband jokingly will go, hey, guess what I got on? I'll walk in and I'll go, no. To this day, I've still never watched Gremlins a second time. And it's not necessarily because of, again, language. There's no blood or guts. But a 3-year-old Yes, Novus is going to the movie theater. When my dad was like, I just thought it was a cube. I said, shut up. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Because you love scaring the shit out of me. Like, I love you dearly, but you do. And I can't even watch. It's sad. My 6-year-old nephew, who's okay, I love him, but he's kind of a wimp. Okay. He is like, let's watch Jurassic Park season. I'm like, no, that's another one. I won't do it. I can't, because I watched it once, and the second time, again, in the movie theater with my father. I've learned I don't go to the movies with him anymore. And that scene where the kids are trapped in the car upside down, you know, the kids are in the Jeep upside down, the T-Rex is trying to get to him. It's scary, like intense part, and I'm all tensed up. My father would be hilarious to reach over and grab my knee and just go, in the middle of the movie theater. Pretty sure I peed my pants, but still to this day, I can't watch any of. I can't do it. I can't, even if I'm by myself and the sun's up. I just can't do scary movies. So it matters how old your kids are.
That's
but
very
honestly, I just, and it's a huge issue to me. My husband, and he'll go, okay, don't look over there. Just don't look to the right now, because we'll be in an adult movie and somebody's bringing a little kid, because they just didn't, they didn't care. Hot Tub Time Machine. There was a 5-year-old sitting behind me, and I'm like, I have no idea what that movie's about. Not that I had an issue with the movie, but I'm thinking, there's a 5-year-old kid sitting right behind me watching all this. It's totally inappropriate. About lost my mind during Deadpool. I'm like, y'all go see Kung Fu Panda 3. It's hilarious. I promise it's funnier than the last one, and maybe even the first one. Go see that one instead. But get your tiny children out of this movie theater, please. Just be aware. I don't know. So that's one of the reasons I didn't have any issue coming on last minute on this one, just because while I was raised uber conservative, I've not been as conservative with my son, simply because I think at some point, like you were talking about ages and things like that, at some point, and again, depending on the child's maturity, I mean, and it has to be a child to child basis, as to whether or not you're going to allow them to be exposed to something, but being aware of what they're watching, and what they're being exposed to. I think that's huge, and I think it's not something that anybody's talking about enough in our society and our culture. We just let them do what they want and watch what they want because they have the phones, and we can't control it anyway. And that's not true at all.
Every kid with a phone has access to YouTube, and YouTube, you can literally search for anything, and you can watch scenes from R-rated movies at whatever age you are when you have access to YouTube.
Yeah.
So, Troy, you said that your mom took you to a lot of movies that she probably shouldn't have when you were younger. Did any of them traumatize you in any way? Like, did any of them stand out or anything?
No, like, my mom just kind of took me to whatever she was going to watch. Okay. So, like, if anything, I think it probably, like, engendered my love of, like, like, kind of, like, offbeat cinema, I suppose.
Nice.
Like 1 week it would be, like, Beaches or some shit, and then the next week it would be, like, Major League. Nice. And like, that's a movie I remember seeing in the movie theater when I was very young, and I was like it was only much later that I was like, oh wow, like, I can't believe, like, I saw this when I was like 8 years old. Like, this is not just a movie about baseball. But you know, like,
she was.
What?
I had no idea who she was.
Yeah, I had no idea. Yeah, seriously.
Can't
Like,
blame
and
anyone for that.
it's like there was clearly so much stuff that I'm sure was just going right over my head,
Sure,
and that I wasn't even, like, cognizant of as far as that goes. But, like, I think, like, the important thing was, like, my mom was always there, like, after the movie, that if I was like, oh, let's talk about this, and, like, it just kind of, like, if you're going to, like, kind of, like, cross these bridges with your kids, like, I feel like you have to kind of be there to, like, help them, like, process and to kind of, like, differentiate, like, reality from, like, fiction, and especially, like, kind of, like, the, like, tropes of storytelling. And I'm just, because, like, there's, like, a cause and effect in, like, most movies that, like, is not like a real world cause and effect. It just has to happen for the plot to be driven forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you just kind of have to like, I don't know, you just kind of have to like be there to like kind of like be that conduit and be that guide. I think you could largely get away with showing your kid anything if they're willing to like engage with it like in a kind of like a from like a distant perspective.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything to wrap up our feature presentation discussion?
I don't think so. I just know that it's very interesting because I also know that there's a lot of, like we were talking about, there are parents who show their kids things way beforehand. But a lot of times we don't know their maturity level either as parents or as kids. So it's definitely a case by case basis. It's one of those things where I keep trying to figure out what that R-rated movie could be that would be appropriate for my children to watch, that they would be able to process. And The Matrix is the one I just keep coming back to, and it makes me wonder if that is going to be the first one that I show my children, because there are so many that I love and enjoy, and even did way back when I was 7-8 years old watching these films. Terminator 2,
released in 1999, by the way.
I was going to say Terminator 2 are another couple of movies that I think would be a lot of fun for my kids to watch. True Lies, I think it's kind of blah overall for like, if you from a certain perspective, but like overall I still love that movie just because of it's Arnold trying to be James Bond, and for me it works. So I'm
curious about this. Are there any R-rated movies that you'd show your kids the TV version of before you ever showed them the actual version? Or do you want to show them the real movie before you would ever show them the TV version?
I don't think I want to show them the TV version of things. I think, and True Lies is honestly, now I'm thinking of it, and like True Lies might actually be one that end up instead of The Matrix, because I know True Lies backwards and forwards, and like I can't think of anything where I'm like, this is too much. That, I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's the one that's that's the only thing I can think of that would make me go, oh, we shouldn't watch this. So, but yeah.
Well, the very last thing that we have, normally we would wrap up our feature presentation right now. However, Melissa, this is your first time on the show. And when somebody is on the show for the first time, Jason, get the questions ready because you're going to do the odd questions like always. First time anybody is ever on the show, we do the Horowitz questionnaire. It is something that originated with Troy long ago when we all did blogs back in the mid-2000s. Troy's first appearance on this podcast was when we turned the Horowitz questionnaire into an episode of the podcast, where we brought on all the people that answered it back in the mid-2000s, and then we kind of do it now with everybody the first time that they're on. The original Horowitz questionnaire was 17 questions. We've cut it down to 10. Jason, start with question number 1 for Melissa, please.
What is the first film you ever remember seeing, whether it was in the theater or at home?
Again, I think Gremlins.
Okay.
Honest to God,
you said you were 3, so that makes sense.
I mentioned that one, but I was 3. So it's probably as harrowing as it was. That's the first one I remember.
All right. Question number 2. What is your favorite film of all time?
Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Honestly, it's a tie, and they're both very bizarre. First one is Robin Hood Men in Tights. I will watch it. I know it front and back. I love that movie. Second one is Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, the very old musical.
Sure.
That is one of my all-time favorites.
All right. Question number 3.
What is your favorite line from a movie?
I have so many.
Ask you if you're a god, you say
yes.
Yes. Honestly, probably one of the best ones that George and I throw around a lot is that sounds false. That's probably one of the ones we quote the most.
What is that from?
Oh, you would ask me that.
I'm not. It's not ringing a bell.
I can't even remember. It was on.
Okay.
It's either I'll remember it as soon as we're done with this one, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But somebody's saying something and they'll go, that sounds false. It's not like you're wrong. It's just, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Like
that sounds false. So that's where you're being like, you're wrong, but I'm going to be nice about it, not say so. So we usually get around that one.
Nice. Question number 4. What film made you realize that movies are an art?
Gremlins.
What? No.
It definitely invokes fear in you.
A form of torture. That one you could do, a form of torture. That movies are an art. Gosh. Well, I'll be honest with you. Honestly, probably one of the reasons I love it is Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, just because it's based off of like an old play, and it's very much like watching a play, but just a tiny bit bigger, just the way they used to do it back in the day. I would say that's probably one of them. Nice. I would say that's probably one of them because I love the music and the scenery and everything else in that one.
Awesome. Question number 5.
What movie do you consider your guilty pleasure?
I mean, Jack and Jill should be on this list because that movie's fucking terrible.
Shush. To be completely honest, that was Matthew's favorite, not mine, but I tolerated it a lot.
Got it.
Guilty. So I'm not gonna lie. Any of the Mummy trilogy. I love me some Brendan Fraser. I have since I was.
They made more than one Mummy movie.
Shush! They made so many.
No, they only made one in 1999, and that was it.
Four.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's definitely a guilty pleasure. Who is your favorite actor?
Well, that and George of the Jungle with Brendan Fraser. So whatever.
Yeah, apparently, you just like Brendan Fraser
really
when he was in his. So Dudley Do-Right's probably up there too.
Well, not as high.
Okay.
No,
right,
not as high. That one I have my standards.
All right. Who is your favorite actor or actress of all time?
Of all time, Carrie Elways is one of my favorites. He really is. But honestly, I think one of the most underrated actors that we have. I think honestly, I mean, you guys mentioned earlier Colin Firth, but
Colin Farrell.
Farrell, thank you. Definitely not Firth. Who? Oh God, what's his name? He's on. Oh my gosh, I can't believe his name is not gone out of my brain. Okay, so on the recent
guy
Thor,
who did that thing last year.
Yeah, no, he's on the most recent Thor. He plays the God Killer.
Oh, Carl Urban.
Christian Bale.
Thank you, Christian Bale. Yeah. I was not a huge fan of him in the beginning, but the more I've seen of his work and the broad spectrum he has of acting, like in Thor: Love and Thunder, it wasn't until the very end. I mean, the very end that I went, is that Christian Bale? It never even occurred to me. You know, he just has the ability to really take on a character, and I don't know. I did love him in Newsies. That was probably a first crush. I'm not gonna lie.
Question 7, Jason.
Who's your favorite director of all time? Although she already said she doesn't know directors very well.
That is true.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. As far as directors, I do like Jon Favreau, or however you pronounce his name.
Yep.
I do like his movies.
Chef
generally they don't fail to entertain
or
be, and they're never out there and ridiculous. So he's probably one of my favorites.
Very nice. Number 8, who is your favorite character from a movie? Brendan Fraser in The Mummy?
Well, I mean, favorite all-time character. Actually, no, I'm going to have to say, as much as I love as much as I love Brendan Fraser in the movie,
Mhm.
Carrie Owens in Princess Bride.
Oh,
I
sure.
just gotta go with
Wesley?
I do. I have to go with Wesley.
Dread Pirate Roberts. Yep.
Yes, the Dread Pirate Roberts every time.
Jason, question number 9.
What is your favorite movie snack or food?
Oh, popcorn. Just always popcorn. It's great if you can mix in with some like Raisinets. I know that's weird, but the
what I
chocolate
was
and
about to
the
ask.
popcorn. But I love especially AMC popcorn. Sorry, they have the best popcorn. I really do.
Right on.
I'm a
Hi,
huge
Mark
fan.
Glendale.
No.
Oh yeah.
Does Mark still bring you bags of Glendale popcorn from
I
time
haven't
to time?
asked him in a while, so
Okay. All right, and question number 10. The movie Melissa is coming out.
Oh.
Who plays you in the movie? Who is cast as Melissa in the
Oh my
movie about
gosh.
your life?
Melissa McCarthy.
Oh,
I love it.
okay.
Honest.
Okay.
I do. I think she's hilarious. And I love how she gets into character. And if anybody's going to portray my ridiculous life, it'd be her.
All right, sounds good. And then I told you I was going to throw in another question here.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Little one that you're not going to be prepared for. If I am correct, you and Jason did high school show choir together, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So if we're casting that part of the movie, who plays you and who plays Jason in high school?
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna go with oh gosh, at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, it can be an actor when they were younger also.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of what I'm trying to think of. Who would play an awkward, skinny teenager really well for me? Gosh, I guess I tell you what, the best one, I would say Drew Barrymore for me, because
Awesome.
like from Never Been Kissed, that's kind of
Sure.
that goofy, completely out of touch, 100% me. Jason, I would actually go with, I'm trying to make his name come to my brain. Kevin James.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I get to flip this. I would totally.
All right. Okay.
I wasn't ready for Kevin James as an answer. I had all these other ones, and I was like, if he picks Jonah Hill, I'm gonna go ask me about my wiener. But so I'm not getting you when I think about this. I was like, oh, Emma Stone in Easy A, like playing Melissa as like the awkward, like
that would probably be part. Yeah,
I was like,
a good one.
that's what I was thinking of.
She's
so.
a bit too self-assured. I feel
Well,
like me.
Especially her character in like Superbad, right? Like,
right.
So like that's who I thought of, and I was
That'd
like,
be a good one. That'd be another good one. Yeah.
So.
But painfully oblivious and naive. That's I think more of Drew Barrymore in Never Been Kissed for that one.
Weird. And man, you brought up Emma Stone in Superbad, where Jonah Hill was also in Superbad.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So I mean, we could literally just take a screenshot from that movie and say it's the movie of Melissa's life as a teenager.
So funny. I actually have never seen that movie all the way through. My brother's like, how? He asked me that so many times, and I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. But apparently, yes, apparently that would be good.
Well, guys, it has been awesome being back and doing this. I have to say, first of all, a huge shout out to my buddy Sergio. Over the last couple of months, apparently at his new job, he has a lot of downtime and listened to basically all of our episodes that Jason and I had done, and sent me a text around Christmas that said, I've completely caught up on all your episodes. When are you going to do more? So that was one of those really kind of like pushing factors that made me start really wanting to get back to doing this. Troy, I'm so happy that you had your idea that led to this, that kind of forced me to come up with an idea to do. Melissa, thank you so much. I know it was very last minute for you to get on here, but I really appreciate everything that you brought to this episode. And as always, I couldn't do this without Jason. He pushes me to make me want to chat about movies with people. So It was great to be back.
And I
It was
make
great to
him-
do this again. What's up?
And I make him do Girl Scout videos in a very short amount of time.
And they're so
Oh
great.
my
They're
God,
so
I
great.
have to,
Yeah, I've seen
I have
those.
to re-record the intro to this video now. I forgot to bring that up. So if you've listened all the way to this part, you're going to hear a different version of the intro than I actually recorded, because I'm going to record a new intro because this episode is sponsored by Troop
3364.
by Troop 3364. In the description, I am going to put a link to go buy cookies from our sponsor for this week. If you want Girl Scout cookies, go buy them from Jason's daughter. And again, this is the second time you're going to hear this because I'm going to re-record my intro now that I completely forgot to do that. So thanks for reminding me about that. New intro coming that you'll have already heard if you've made it this far. So
Thank you, Shane, for those videos. They're awesome. We're having a lot of fun being silly with them, and Sarah absolutely loves them. So
yeah, if you haven't seen them yet, we have 2 out of the 3 videos done. We're doing a trilogy for her selling cookies. She's having when we filmed episode 1, well, when you filmed and I edited episode 1, I think it was supposed to be her having a nightmare about selling cookies. It's now turned into her in the Star Wars universe selling cookies. And then I'm really excited for where we go with part 3. I think Jason's got a really great idea for that. So I'm just happy you're having me along. Like, you're doing all the creative part and I just get to edit it together, and I just love doing that. So yeah, this video was sponsored by Sarah's Troop 3364. Is that right? Yeah, okay. 3364. So in the description I'll have where you can go buy some Girl Scout cookies if you want them. So, but yes, thanks to everybody that was on here with me this week. Thank you for getting me back into doing this. Like I said, we're going to do it every month now. Our March episode is going to be a bracket of 64 action movies that people will vote on, that we will get down to a final 4, that then Jason and I and our guests will discuss those final 4 action movies for which one's going to be deemed the greatest action movie of all time according to this bracket. So that's our shtick for March Madness, March Action Madness, I'm calling it, or Maction Madness, maybe something dumb like that. I'll find some stupid way to work it in, but so that's what Jason and I will be hopefully talking about with 2 other people on March 1st when we are back. So thank you again, guys. Appreciate it.